such an artificial, shallow way of measuring how good you look. Hello boys, how are we? For those of you new here, I'm a psychology student trained to be a therapist. So on this channel we talk about positivity, mindset, well-being, mental health and all things like that. So if that sounds of interest, stick around. Today I wanted to talk about a really important topic that I think doesn't necessarily get looked at enough. This came to me as an idea from listening to a podcast about body dysmorphia and muscle dysmorphia specifically in men. Obviously when you think of things like body dysmorphia and eating disorders and everything like that, a lot of those stories and a lot of those things you would normally relate to women just because of the stories that you hear and what you see in sort of the magazines and things like that. But I found it really interesting hearing the psychology about these guys who could be absolutely ripped, have the body that most men could only dream of, but they look in the mirror and they're genuinely miserable with how they look, and they still feel the need to go to the gym 3 hours a day every day, not see their friends, not see their partner, stick to a ridiculously strict diet, and they get even more down on themselves if they miss a day. And it sort of got me thinking about why do these people exist and why do they get to that? And I think from the thinking I've been doing, I think a lot of our happiness comes from how we value ourselves as a human being. Because of this, what's so important is the metrics that we use to measure what our value is. I think I've spoken about this before, about how a lot of people mix up their value as a human being and their value in, I don't know, a better way to frame it, the sexual marketplace, as in what makes them a good human being. They mix that up with what's more likely to make them more attractive to the opposite sex. And some of those things do overlap, but a lot of them don't. And I think this is why, on a slight tangent, people get very, very offended, men and women, when they hear these things about what makes someone more attractive or less attractive, because they conflate that with what makes someone more or less valuable as a human being. And like I said, as a whole, they are two very different things. So the main message of this, which is what I'm going to break down in a minute, is you have to very, very carefully choose the metric that you measure your value by. In the examples I was given earlier about these people with sort of eating disorders or muscle dysmorphia or body dysmorphia, they tie their value as a human being to how they look. And this is something that loads and loads and loads of people have. People who maybe don't have any registered disorders, or you don't notice it as much, but so many people tie their value to how they look, their physical appearance. And we can see this because what's come along in the last 5 to 10 years that's absolutely wrecked everyone's view of themselves: Instagram, social media basically. And it's frightening the amount of studies that are coming out, and it's been hard to do studies before because it has only been around in its serious current form. Instagram probably has only been around about 5 years, so what things are going to be like another 5-10 years from now is terrifying. But all these studies and statistics coming out about like school age children and stuff like that struggling with how they look because they're spending time on Instagram looking at these models with Photoshop pictures and stuff like that. In my opinion, it goes one step further in something that's not always connected and looked at, and that is dating apps. So it goes in, when I say it goes a step further, what I mean is people value their metric of what they are as a human being is valued on how they look. But the problem is they decide how good they look by how many matches they get on dating apps and social media and things like that. And that's where the real problem is all these people that aren't sure about how they look, or even if they were happy with how they look, they'll post a picture on social media, and if it doesn't get enough likes, they'll go, oh well, I thought that was a good picture, but actually it's only got 10 likes in 15 minutes, so maybe it hasn't. Or I thought I was a good looking person, so I was happy with myself, but actually I've gone and downloaded Tinder or Hinge and I'm not getting any matches, which means everyone thinks I'm ugly, which must mean I don't look good, and that goes along to my value as a person. So if you get what I mean, it begins to spiral. And likewise, it can go the opposite way, where you have these people who their only form of keeping themselves alive in terms of what they feel about themselves and their opinion of how they look is social media. And it may seem like, oh great, yeah, they're getting loads of likes and everything like that, and these people who hate how they look but to boost themselves will post a picture on social media and watch the likes roll in, or they'll sit there on Tinder and just watch the likes come in, or they'll get loads of matches and stuff like that. And I mean, for me it's pretty obvious that that's absolutely an awful way to live. But even if people go, no, that's brilliant, I'd love that, that is such a fragile way to measure, and such an artificial, shallow way of measuring how good you look. And again, people may sit there and go, yeah, I'm shallow, I'm vain, I don't care, I like taking pictures of myself, I like doing myself up for Instagram and stuff like that, and I've got no problem with that. Who doesn't like getting a nice photo of themselves and posting it on Instagram? Who doesn't like getting a match on a dating app? I've nothing wrong with that. The problem is when you tie that to, am I getting likes, am I getting matches, to this is my value as a human being, because these likes and matches are a reflection of if I'm looking good or not. So what I'd say to anyone who is having that, and I wouldn't even say this as advice, I think I would say this is fact. One, obviously your value does not come, as a human being, does not come from how many likes and matches you get. And two, as a fact, your value comes from how you act and how you treat people. It comes from being a good person, an honest person, a person from integrity, a person who goes out of their way to do nice things when they don't have to, a person who cares for and protects the people they love. I don't say that to be all soppy and romantic or anything like that. I say that because one, I genuinely believe it too, and two, notice how everything I said there is something you have control over. It's a whole separate video, but all that stuff with Instagram and dating apps and stuff like that, not only are they terrible metrics to measure what your value is as a human being, you're also putting your value out to external sources. You don't decide how many likes or matches you get, so you could be doing everything right, if you want to put it that way, and you still don't get the results you're looking for. Whereas if you go through life acting in the correct way, if nothing else, you are going to feel better about who you are, and you're going to value yourself higher as a human being. So, very brief recap. In summary, choose better metrics to measure yourself against, and make sure they are metrics you can control, and make sure they are metrics that you genuinely believe make you a better person. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. I do appreciate you guys who stick around. If you did find any of it interesting, please do consider liking, subscribing, comment any other thoughts you have below. I do 2 of these every week, so yeah, I already said subscribe, but I'll say it again because I want you to subscribe. Socials are also in the description, so if you want to drop me a message, ask me a question, say something nice, say something not so nice, I don't really mind. It's all engagement for me. I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care, lads.